Let me put this down there. There we go. Audio syncing in 3, 2, 1. We can do better. We can do better. Audio syncing in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Love it. Deep down, I kind of feel like our editor doesn't actually need that, but we've been doing it for so long that I refuse to stop doing it.
Yeah. It's almost trademarked.
The slurp.
That and the stop the slurp.
What?
2025, stop the slurp. That's my
That's
my
not even my
campaign.
slurp to steal, so I'm not.
That's Christabel's
It's
slurp.
Christabel's slurp.
Stop
Well, I'm
stealing
in a seat.
Christabel's.
I'm in a seat.
Sounds like a bumper sticker you need.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rolling with Reddit. We are joined here by a very special guest. We have Tom Nelson from the Deck of Player Safety. Please, if you don't mind, tell the people where they can find you, what you do, how they can fall in love with you.
Yeah, sure. To fall in love with me, that's a stretch, but yeah, thanks. No, thanks for the opportunity. It's I created the Deck of Player Safety. You can find me pretty much at the Deck of Player Safety on Instagram and Facebook, as well as deckofplayersafety.com. What it is a 3-minute session zero. I'm sure most people have heard of or employed, hopefully, the X card or lines and veils, red, yellow, green cards, all which work to varying degrees, but in my experience had some deficiencies. And the deck solves 3 very specific problems. One, it's 100% anonymous for everybody. So that means that every player and even the DM is in the dark, or at least can be anonymous in terms of subjects or subject matter they don't want to include in the game. Also, it's very fast. That's why I call it a 3-minute session zero, especially for organized play, conventions, things like that, where you're already crunched for time. You don't have much time to organize anything extra, but it allows you to at least set some boundaries in that initial 3 minutes right when you get ready to play.
No, agreed. Speaking from experience, because you had Deck of Player Safety with us at Kobold Press at Gen Con 2024.
Yeah.
Using this several times all weekend, it was the fastest, most easy player safety tool to implement that I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big supporter and belief that this is the way to do it. And I believe we can actually do a really quick demo of how to put these in action if you want.
Right, yeah. And the other aspect is it heads problems off before they happen. Most of the time, like the X card or anything else, you have to kind of go through the bad feelings first and then react to it if you're willing to do so, especially in front of strangers. Again, organized play and conventions, you're typically sitting down with people who don't know you. But the mechanic, very simply, is that it's a deck of cards with 32 real common topics that happen in RPGs, and especially at lower levels. And mixed in, there are a bunch of anything goes cards. So real simply, the mechanic is that you'd hand the deck off to the first player. They skim the deck for anything they don't want in the game, whatever their topic is. And it doesn't matter what the reason is, and nobody needs to know who submitted it or why, but they can choose any topics they don't want in the game. And then they pass the deck to the next player. They skim the deck as well. If you're good with anything, then there's anything goes card. So you would still choose an anything goes card, and that's what assures the anonymity, is that everybody gets a chance to put in at least one card, and then the GM would just pick up the cards, do even a shuffle, very kind of conspicuous to the players so they can tell that there's no order or anything. And then most importantly, you review them with the players so everybody's on the same page. Okay, we've got anything goes, no bugs, no reference to physical disabilities, and you start playing. It's as simple as that.
Easy. Yeah.
And what's even better, and I know a lot of your audience is probably people who play online, and of course I'm using a physical deck here, but there is a digital version available which is 100% free. It's at demiplane.com/DOPS.
Link below.
Yep, thank you very much. And it doesn't require a Demiplane login. It's a standalone anonymous app that they created because they really believed in the product. So you could just paste the link to the cards. Your players select the cards online. GM reveals them. Everybody's on the same page.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Thanks.
Sweet. Now let's look into some situations where these probably could have been used. These player safety tools would have been very ideal in some of these scenarios.
Most of what's on Reddit seems like it's better to use something or to use something like this.
I feel like this entire series should just be brought to you by Player Safety. Let's see. So you are the guest, of course, which means you get to actually pick which story of the 2 that we read first. And you get to do so based on the author's name. So the first one that we have here is by Far Attention 6548. And the second one we have here is Demon A. So it's Demon with A-E at the end. Demon A.
Okay. I think Fire Attention sounds like they can wait a little bit.
Alrighty.
They're a little further off. Let's start with Demon A.
I like this one. Well, I say that very loosely. I think this is an important one to dive into, I should say.
This can get rough quickly.
It's kind of heavy-handed coming out the
your
gate.
seatbelts.
So the title of this one reads, I just walked out of my first game ever. GM narratively forced my character into being a mass shooter.
Oh.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's rough.
Yeah, you could skip that mission in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
Holy cow, yeah. Don't go to the airport.
No. So here we go. Let's dive into this a little
Yeah.
bit. And I will say, audience, I read ahead in this a little bit. It's not incredibly graphic, but bear with me. So this says, been playing Werewolf the Apocalypse for the last few months at a local comic shop. Setting is modern day Appalachia with cryptids that we are hunting down. The game is great until tonight. We were investigating a lumber company that has been doing illegal logging and stirring up local monsters in the process. The plan was to kidnap one of the sons of the owners for information. We went to a local bar to meet him as prospective buyers and lured him out into the patio, where we would be able to get away from other people. It turned out that they had bodyguards and things got ugly, and I unloaded an MP40 into his guard. Once again, we lured them outside, where we were alone. This was a major point that we didn't want witnesses. After the fight, the guard is down, and we are making our getaway. About 20 minutes after the fight, the GM then informs me that I shot 26 other people with my MP40, and 7 of them died. I was now a mass shooter and had committed the worst shooting in the history of West Virginia. Wild to just spring that on your players.
Yeah.
On one hand, I get wanting your players to have consequences for when things go sideways.
Yeah.
But to not say that like in the moment as it's happening, or like saying like, hey, before you unload, just so you are aware.
Some kind of indication of what was going to happen there would have been
They
nice.
have to be aware of what consequences are going to be chasing them down.
Right.
It almost seems like it was an afterthought in a way. Because if I'm describing the scene of your intended targets, but by the way, to your point, like there are lots of unintended targets around. And it sounds like the GM kind of thought, you know, it would be cool in their mind for some narrative reason. Let me decide for that player what happened. You know, make this decision for him and kind of change the story. That's a little scary.
That would be fun.
But too real.
Yeah, first
Too
game
real.
too rough.
Yeah.
It says, my stomach literally turned. I was stunned. I looked at him and I asked point blank if he was really making my character a mass shooter. I explained that the area was clear, there was no one around. How could I possibly hit 26 innocent people? He said no, the area was very crowded, and there were lots of people eating on the patio. I tried talking to him, and I'm agreeing with you more and more.
That sounds like they should have said that in the moment.
Yeah.
I tried talking to him and explaining that he had never once said anyone was out there with us, and the other 3 players were looking as shocked as I felt. I asked him again if he was sticking to this, that I shot 26 innocent and killed 7, and he was adamant. I handed him my character sheet, picked up my dice, phone, and wallet, and walked out and drove home. I know it's just a game, but like, am I crazy for feeling this was over the line? I've been playing TTRPGs for decades and DMing for decades. I would have never done this to a player ever. I'm still pissed.
Yeah.
And that is the end of that post.
Yeah, that could be a hard line easily that you wouldn't want to be a part of, and that would actually, right there for the deck of safety.
Yeah, I mean, there is a explosions, and I think my initial version had a mass casualties card, and because it seemed timely, but kind of made it more generic with explosion, just from player feedback.
Yes.
But absolutely, it sounds like an after fact.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens. I mean, I literally was walking my dog this morning, and I got a group playing Curse of Strahd. We just started it. Boom. Oh, something had happened in the last game. I just thought of a great idea how this is going to come back and maybe haunt is, pun intended in a way, later. But it's certainly much more cutesy and fun than I turned you into a mass murderer or serial killer behind you. Basically made choices for your character.
Yeah, no, that's...
that I shouldn't be doing as a GM.
That was bad. Yeah, bad DM. now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too. I definitely feel like I've had some amazing decisions after a session has ended, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But they're innocent. They or if they're not innocent, they're at least avoidable from whenever I do decide to reintroduce that concept.
Right.
But it's never like changing the full outcome of what has already happened. I'm interested in what some of these top comments have to say. We have here one by Hugh Monkulus. I get it now.
Genius.
Hugh Monkulus. Okay. They say, you aren't crazy. If you made it clear that you wanted to lure them away to avoid witnesses, then that would imply that there was no one else around. There was a chance that you would have shot a bunch of innocent people. The GM should have telegraphed that. Bad move by the GM. You weren't wrong to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was an established group who'd been playing, then you get into the let's have a conversation. Like, did we really need to talk about this? First session, you're already, what the future holds. Make a change.
Yeah.
There are better groups out there, better fits.
100%.
And frankly, as more and more players learn about session zeros, safety tools, whether it's a deck or anything else for that matter, as long as they're using something, that acknowledges they're concerned about it, then, have that discussion beforehand.
Leads to a much more comfortable gameplay throughout, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big reason why I did this and why I think they're employed in general is it allows you to relax a little bit knowing that, whatever happened that last time, now that I had a voice, it's not going to happen this time.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it.
I've definitely had a game where flirting was too much on, and
It was me. I tried to tongue him. I tried to tongue him at the table.
And if I had put the card down, we would have known. But
yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, that's the most commonly pulled card in my experience.
Fair.
Because
Oh,
people don't want strangers who they're just trying to play a game with to start flirting with them unwelcomely at the table. I even had one guy after the fact come in and say, "Hey, I put the flirting card because I just get so sick of bards who waste so much time flirting with everybody. I just didn't want that.
I want to flirt with that drink."
I was like, "Hey, you didn't need to tell me that, but whatever your motivation is, we respected it."
Very true. Let's go on to the next story here by Far Attention 6548. And this is probably a story that I really wish I'd found before recording last week's episode with Sean Banerjee.
Oh, yeah.
So this one's actually a little interesting. It says, D&D player demands Aryan homebrew race.
I'm not joining that game.
Yeah.
That's just the start off, not joining that game.
Assuming this is the DM, they said D&D player, so assuming it's the DM, it's like, that's just not welcome at my table. And I think we're going to have a conflict,
Yep.
I don't necessarily see it as a point where I have to change somebody, because let's face it, unless people are willing to change, there's no point. The internet's for that arguing with each other, right?
Exactly.
But it'd just be like, no, this isn't going to work.
I'm not starting that session.
Yeah, let's see what happens here.
Okay.
Just off of that.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat.
We are unfortunately covering the story on this channel, which means I've at least skimmed it and said this is at least somewhat interesting.
Of course.
So about 3 months ago, I started playing D&D with some acquaintances from the game shop. The DM and I actually had experiences playing Magic the Gathering together, and he was a creative type, so he decided to homebrew a new campaign from the ground up. And when I say homebrew, I mean he pulled no punches. This campaign was a mishmash of different themes colliding due to the convergence of realms. He wanted us, the prospective party, to kind of run with the creativity as well. So he told us to create our own homebrew races and classes. He would review them to make sure they aren't OP, but he wanted us to go nuts with the creativity so he could build on that.
That's good.
I like that.
Sounds great so far.
And I will admit, when I was skimming it, some of these ideas that they came up with on this next little paragraph are some of my favorite design ideas that I want to see on paper. So here's what they did, besides the last one, of course. So we have, there were 4 of us playing, me and 3 other guys. Guy 1 creates a dinosaur race based on a Triceratops and makes him a druidic savage, which is sort of a mix between a druid and a barbarian. Guy 2 makes a Cthulhu spawn, which ended up being similar to a Mind Flayer but playable. His class was a dimensional fiend, which sort of worked like a warlock, wizard, and a cleric. Low AC, dark powers, but also a lot of healing spells thrown in. And then I made a character that was pretty much a ripoff of Spider-Man, but blue-skinned and multiple limbs.
Love it.
Already a really cool party for this campaign idea of like mixing and matching universes. You're all very different.
Yeah. Dino with Spider-Man. That's
And
pretty
then
awesome.
unfortunately,
And then
and then we have quote-unquote that guy. He was a guy we saw in the shop occasionally and was super into collecting D&D and Warhammer 40k minis. He said his race was quote-unquote Aryan. He then quote-unquote min-maxed, more like max-maxed, the hell out of his racial stats in order to, in his words, make the most genetically superior version of human I can. He also homebrewed an Alpha Warrior class, which was supposed to capture the warrior spirit of a true Aryan male. As he was describing it, we all just looked at each other like, what the fuck? And after a moment of silence, the DM says, we are not doing that.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Okay.
The bated breath.
I exactly.
That guy then said, why the hell not? It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept.
I want to play a Nazi in my fantasy world. That's what he said.
You said we could homebrew anything as long as it's not OP. He was very OP, just to be clear. DM,
Probably not the biggest problem, but
No,
I mean,
yeah.
OP fighter, we could do with that, but
Yeah.
DM
Fighter
said,
especially.
I think you know why I'm not going to allow that homebrew. And then that guy tried to say, it's okay if you disagree with the racial theories behind the concept, just treat him like a joke character. DM just said, look, maybe this game isn't for you then. I really hate to be the dick who says no to a character concept, but I'm not allowing this. He then said, fine, I'll just play with my dumbass brothers for another fucking campaign. There was a lot of information there. There's a lot of implied things here.
that's probably a family affair, you know?
Yeah. He then pouted and stormed off and left the game store. Never saw the guy again. Very weird encounter, but we proceeded and even picked up 2 new players with 2 new interesting homebrews. What are they? I didn't get this far down originally. One was a Wookiee bugbear type of monster homebrew. That's awesome.
That's up.
It's not worse. Yeah, it's way better.
It's the beard.
And the other, it gives you the power of the Wookiee.
It's inside of there. I don't actually use my mouth.
You pull back the hair, it's just a Wookiee face.
Yeah.
The other was an elf dragonborn hybrid that played like a warlock sorcerer hybrid, but with more of an armor class of a wizard. Amazing ideas except for one. I loved all of that.
Sounds like there's a spot at the table.
Where are you? What game show?
Yeah. No, the
OP, where do you live?
Building. Yeah. That's.
I would like to see that party together, though. That'd be
I'm like,
interesting.
I want art of them.
Yeah, it sounds super fun.
Yeah.
And good on them for kicking that guy out.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a top comment here by Stinger AE. They quote a bit of the story, and then they have a comment on top of the quote. The part that they quote from the story is, I think you know why I'm not going to allow that homebrew. The comment that they added was, this was the important moment. Not entertaining any discussion, not getting distracted into the question of how OP, just outright, nope, not happening. I applaud.
Yep.
I applaud the GM there.
Absolutely.
Especially like in person at a game shop. That is a difficult conversation
strangers, yeah.
to have in front of other people who you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm talking to other GMs or like newer ones, and I kind of reinforce that idea, like, you are the authority figure at the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your game, but people still look to you as like, well, we can't do this without you. So you have, even if it's a small degree, you have a degree of authority there.
Yeah.
And it's appropriate to use it in a situation like that. And beyond that, be a good person. I don't care if you're playing a game. Like, be a good person and be willing to stand up for what's right. It's just
It's that easy. Yeah.
being the right type of person in the world. So, game or not. But yeah, thank God he did.
Applaud DM.
Yeah.
Gotta love it.
Good job.
And ladies and gentlemen, I believe that is all the time that we have for this current episode. So please, please, please go down into the description. Go check out the Deck of Player Safety. We have the website down below. We have the online tool from Demiplane link below as well. And just show Tom some love. Give him some comments. Go over to the shop and pick up this amazing product. And if you want to test it yourself, if any of you are coming out to Gen Con, we will be having this again, I presume.
Yeah.
We'll be having this again.
It's their official tool. Actually, and I think it's okay to say I'm in talks with Baldman Games. They're about to make it official as well, because they've always used the tool, but they never mandated what, and they've seen after a couple of years the effectiveness, and they're willing to adopt it. And Pathfinder and Paizo as well. So
there you go.
They're all embracing it and saying, you know what, this actually works. So let's get it out there.
Get familiar.
Yeah,
Anyway, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week for more Rolling with Reddit. Bye bye for now.